Welcome, Fright Night Vault listeners. You've stepped into the dark where the air tastes of rust and the walls remember every scream. What you're about to hear isn't a story, it's a shadow you can't unsee. Keep the lights low, and if something brushes against you while you listen, don't look. If you dare to stay, lean closer. The vault is open, and tonight's terror is already awake. Snowmelt runs in the gutters like thin mercury, and the wind dragging over the rooftops sounds like a bow drawn across old wire. It is late enough that kitchens have gone cold and the neighborhood has folded itself small. In a narrow duplex on a quiet street, a family tries to let the house settle around them the way a blanket settles on sleeping children. The clock in the front room clicks as if counting to something. The kettle sighs and gives up its ghost. Someone laughs on the television next door, then the laughter cuts and the silence after it has teeth. They came here believing in fresh starts. The place had the tired dignity of a home that had endured bad weather and worse luck. Water lines from an old flood traced like scars behind the cabinets. Plaster bubbled in one upstairs room as if the wall still remembered drowning. But there was light in the mornings, and a big maple that threw generous shade, and just enough room for a family to grow into. They scrubbed the stains out of the sink and painted the bedrooms soft colors you could sleep inside. They brought in their beds and a hope that squeaks could be forgiven if the roof did not leak. The small things begin first, as they always do when a house is learning your name. A ceiling light lifts its glass dome and drops it neatly onto the carpet as if the room had coughed. The dishwasher opens an inch, closes, opens again, and then, exhausted, rests. A radio changes stations to a song no one in the family can stand. Footsteps move in the room above the kitchen when everyone who might make footsteps is already in the kitchen. The family trade jokes about settling beams and mischievous plumbing. They say, "It's an old place," and let old do the work of saying, "alive." It is summer when the rooms develop odors that don't belong to the people who pay the bills. Not the honest stink of trash, nor the quick sour of spilled milk. A foul wave that rolls through at odd hours, the reek of something that crawled under the porch and didn't decide whether to die inside or outside. It blooms in the hallway, clings to the stairwell banister, vanishes when doors slam, returns when someone is finally alone. Windows are thrown open. Vinegar bowls sit like small, hopeful moons on every sill. Nothing helps for long. At night, the upstairs landing acquires a cold spot big as a man and mean as a memory. You step through it, and each tooth in your mouth seems to ring. The family begins to learn the house's new map. Places where the temperature drops, corners where the radio refuses to behave, boards that thud when the hallway is empty. The dog, whose courage has never been in question, refuses the stare after 9 p.m. and whines with his head bowed when the youngest runs up in pajamas. A neighbor knocks to borrow sugar and does not cross the threshold. She says nothing about it, but she does not. Explanations arrive because human beings are generous with reason when fear is expensive. The father tightens hinges, checks fuses, wraps pipe with foam. The mother changes out the starter in a flickering fluorescent like a priest changing a candle. A visiting relative, practical, skeptical, spends a weekend and laughs at the drafts. He laughs until something scratches inside the wall behind the headboard for so long that laughter becomes quiet listening, and quiet listening becomes a long, careful wakefulness. In the morning, he mentions rats. They put out traps that catch nothing and keep resetting themselves without being touched. The children grow used to the new discipline of the house. You do not run up the stairs because the cold at the top can catch your breath and you'll cry and say you don't know why. You do not leave your toys near the baseboard because sometimes they will be where you left them, and sometimes they will be arranged under your bed, pointing their faces toward the wall as if they are ashamed. The oldest begins waking with the memory of a dream that has no images, only absence, an unthing, sitting on the edge of her bed with the intimate weight of a parent and the intent of a stranger. On a wet evening, the television next door blares into static, and the static takes on a cadence that might be words if you stand close. The faucet in the bathroom turns itself to a slow, implacable drip. The kitchen light dims as if someone huge has walked between the sun and the house. In that gathering gloom, the back door rises and falls against its latch with a steadily increasing impatience. A dish slides, a glass taps, a spoon shivers in its bowl, and then lies still like a live thing feigning death. When you live with this long enough, sleep becomes a poor tool. The father begins to fall under at the table after dinner, drift in the armchair, drag himself awake at midnight to find that his skin prickles as if he is being watched. Once, he wakes to the sound of water filling the tub upstairs. He runs, heart punching, and finds porcelain brimming with cold, clean water, and nothing in the mirror behind him except his own face and the unhappy line his mouth has learned. It escalates because it always escalates when a thing believes it has found a way to your nerves. Picture frames lift and return themselves crooked. A scratch races down a bedroom door while the room is empty. A low, wet growl arrives from the staircase on a night when every person you love is already accounted for. Here, with you, in the room where you heard the sound. A cupboard opens all the way, slowly, with that padded thump wooden things make when they have reached the end of their limit and must accept what comes next. They try prayer, they try ignoring, they try radio and laughter and busyness and leaving for the evening to come home as a group with the bravado of people who do not want to admit that the hallway has a personality. A friend from church sits with the mother at the table and listens while something heavy ticks from joist to joist beneath their feet like a thing that has learned the house better than they have. The friend's eyes slip to the ceiling and then to the door in the way people look when they have decided to be brave somewhere else. Witnesses come and go. A neighbor, drawn by the thudding and the stink, arrives during one of the worst nights and stands in the kitchen shivering while the overhead light stutters to black and returns, each flicker shorter, and each return of light finding something on the table that was not on the table before. A cousin hears a voice say his name from inside the vent in the guest room. The cousin does not offer explanations. He leaves before dawn. The family stops pretending to be embarrassed. They ask for help. Clergy cross the threshold with their bags of ritual and their patient listening. One stays late and hears the knocks answer his prayers from the walls, a cadence with intelligence in it, a playfulness that feels like cruelty wearing a child's mask. Another sprinkles rooms with water and backs out slowly, a man accustomed to holding lines who finds the line here elastic and treacherous. They promise to return, some do, some advise moving. It does not want them to move. Dear listeners, the house becomes a stage, and the thing inside it a jealous actor. In the afternoons, black shapes walk past open doors in the part of the duplex no one rents anymore. In the mornings, bruises bloom on forearms and cannot be explained by furniture. The dog howls at 2 a.m. and then is quiet. And when he is quiet, the silence has an undertow. The mother, exhausted, watchful, begins to feel a pressure at the edge of her bed after the lights go out, a slow settling as if someone sits with the full intention of staying until she looks. She does not look. One night, she screams anyway. It is not smoke that rolls into the hallway on the worst night. It is cold. The kind of cold that bites your ears from the inside. The kitchen door slams, and from upstairs in the unused rooms, a sound begins. The groaning of furniture dragged across floorboards that have no furniture on them. One by one, doors bang in a rhythm so precise it feels rehearsed. Bang, pause, bang, bang, pause, bang. The father runs to the breaker with a hammer tucked into his belt and the certainty that there must be a wire doing ugly things in the walls. In the dim of the basement, something exhales at his neck and the hair on his arms lifts in a grateful salute. If you have ever tried to protect a family from weather that is not listed in the almanac, you know the slow humiliation of reason failing you. They call again for help. A pair of investigators, with a reputation for being unafraid of the dark, arrive with reels and a small case that rattles like bones in a bag. They speak softly. They listen with their heads tilted like dogs and their eyes narrowed. They ask the house for its name and receive in answer a scrape of air that moves the curtains, though the windows do not show a breeze. They sit up late, and the thing sits up later. One of them reports seeing a form coalesce in the hallway, taller than a man and black in a way that pulls light to it like water down a drain. The other hears, clearly, a human voice say a word that feels old and not meant for anyone who is still breathing. Some sessions are quiet as a graveyard. Others produce recordings that make hands shake when they are played back, the layered whispering of more than one voice occupying the same throat, the crackling of responses where there should be only hiss. The family draws their strength in a smaller and smaller circle, a prayer by the sink, a lullaby hummed under the breath, a habit of never letting the other out of earshot without calling after them. In the place where anger protects what love cannot, the father pounds fists against the newel post and says, out loud, "No more." And the stare answers with a tremor that buzzes up into his teeth. Attempts are made to cleanse the house. Some are formal, Latin and rings of salt and the steady voice of a man who has sworn oaths. Some are desperate, kitchen herbs, new paint, rosaries tucked into vents, hymns sung with shaking voices in doorways where the air leans on you like a stranger. For a few days afterward, the walls hold still and the odors abate. Hope lays a hand on the family's heads and then lifts it, apologetic, as footsteps return, brisk and satisfied. There is a night when someone is pushed. There is a night when something throws, lamps topple, a picture gusts off the wall, a glass slides from a counter as if the countertop has tipped. There is a night when a black mass hangs at the ceiling in the parents' room, and pulsing, soundless rage makes the room feel smaller than a closet. There is a night when the youngest cries without waking, as if a dream got caught in his throat. There is a night when a priest leaves, quiet and pale, and does not return calls. At last, it is decided, not because courage has failed, but because duty to love sometimes means leaving a place you swore to keep. They pack with a speed that would look frantic if you did not know they had practiced in their minds this drill on so many sleepless afternoons. Boxes grow in corners. Clothing goes into suitcases without the careful fold that makes a house feel civilized. They take the children to a relative's and come back for the rest. Together, always together. The house notices, the house disagrees. On the last evening, the rooms go colder than winter and hold that cold like a grudge. The hallway breathes, the stair lifts its boards and sets them down. From the dark rooms in the unused half of the duplex, something slams a door in an empty frame. The father stands his ground in the kitchen and says, "Not tonight." The mother holds a box to her chest and feels a weight settle on top of it. Light, then heavier, then so cold the cardboard groans. She does not drop it. Neighbors will later say the air looked wrong around the house that night, as if heat were dancing in summer over pavement, except it was cold, and the ripples were inside the windows. Someone crosses the street to help carry and stops with one foot on the curb because the front room's lamp dims without flickering, dims with intention. dims the way an eye narrows in disgust. He says he will return in 5 minutes. He does not. They leave anyway. The door clicks behind them and holds its click for a long breath, as if deciding whether to unlock itself. In the new place, with a new set of windows and new noises to learn, the worst of it loosens. Not all of it. A single knock travels the length of a wall once, as if to say, I know the way. An odor rises and fades on 2 nights like a neighbor's cooking who will not share. A dream with no images sits on a chest, and a day follows that feels as if the world's gravity has increased just a little. But the tide is turning. Whatever loved that other house either cannot cross all the way or will not. Perhaps a thing sometimes belongs to a structure as much as a family belongs to a name. In the wake of what happened, interviews are given. A book is written. Skeptics stroke their chins and say the brain is an excellent projectionist. Believers cross themselves and say a prayer under their breath before turning a page. The record braids these into one rope that will be thrown to future readers who do not believe in ropes until they need one. The family, who are nobody's experiment, do what families do when they finally can. They rest, they try to forgive walls, they teach their children that fear comes and goes like weather and does not get to be the whole sky. What remains is a lane that people still travel with their eyes on their shoes, a blueprint in a clerk's drawer with a penciled notation about the oddity of shared ductwork, a photograph of a small bedroom whose wallpaper pattern seems more intent than flowers have any right to be, and a story, this story, that houses will tell each other through the studs at night when the heat kicks and stops, the way breath catches in the throat of something that wants very much to be noticed. The story you just heard is no invention. You can look it up. The incident is called the Smurl haunting, and it was the inspiration for the book The Haunted, One Family's Nightmare, and the 1991 TV movie The Haunted. If you made it this far, you're one of us. Subscribe so you don't miss what crawls out next. Tell me in the comments which true darkness the vault should unearth next. Your hometown's whisper, a family rumor, or the case that still knocks in the walls when the night is quiet. See you on the next one.